Diolch, Dipper Llywydd. First Minister, Adam Price touched briefly on the issue of Brexit in his questions. As we both know, there are 66 days to go before the UK is due to depart the European Union. Theresa May has ruled out delaying the date of departure. She has also ruled out a second referendum. So the default position is that we leave the EU on March the 29th. Given that, First Minister, would it be a good idea if the Welsh Government now simply accepted this outcome and focused on preparing for the no-deal Brexit instead of trying to stop Brexit from happening?
With the rest of the afternoon will help to provide an answer to the member's question. Of course, the Welsh Government does not accept and will not accept that we are simply on an inevitable path to the disaster that a no-deal Brexit would be for Wales. As a responsible government, we do the things that members around this chamber have asked us to do, and that is to prepare against the worst. And you will hear this afternoon the many things that we are doing as a government. But do we accept that we are all somehow tied to a train that the Prime Minister has set off and that there's no alternative for us but to career off the edge with her? Well, of course we don't.
Yes, I know that there are many statements this afternoon, and I'm actually glad that there are statements coming out in a sense, because there is an element in what the Welsh Government is saying in that you are making preparations for Brexit, which we very much welcome on this side of the chamber. But at the same time, you are still clinging to this idea that you've just articulated once again, that you can somehow help to force a second referendum and thwart Brexit from happening. Now, why would you want to do that when you have a clear democratic mandate from the majority of Welsh voters who voted to leave the EU? In short, why are you so set on going against what the people of Wales voted for? And why have you scrapped a whole day's business here today largely to indulge in a day of Project Fear?
Dipper Llywydd, I think the member's contribution began by welcoming the statements that are in front of the Assembly this afternoon, and the fact that we are preparing against an eventuality which we absolutely do not want to see, and then describes the same thing in alarmist terms. Dipper Llywydd, let me be clear. From the day of the referendum, the previous First Minister said, and I often had the opportunity to echo him, that the Welsh Government was focused not on the fact of Brexit, but on the form of Brexit. The fact of Brexit had been put to people in a referendum. But the way you leave the European Union has many different possibilities and is on a very wide spectrum. We continue to believe that it is possible that the House of Commons may find a centre of gravity that would support a form of Brexit that would be aligned with the one that we set out together with Plaid Cymru in securing Wales' future. We've also said that if the House of Commons is deadlocked and cannot deliver an orderly way of leaving the European Union, then putting that decision back to people for them to have the final word would have to be the way in which that would be resolved.
Well, I do really question whether the will of the people who are sitting in the House of Commons overrules the people of the United Kingdom, who have already had their say on this matter. And as was made clear by David Cameron when he gave us this referendum in the first place, it was supposed to be a vote which was going to be binding on the House of Commons. Constitutionally, perhaps impossible, but you should at least engage with what the majority of the people of the UK and indeed the people of Wales have voted for. So I would ask you again, I do like an element of these statements. We do have to make contingency plans for leaving, and I'm glad you're doing that. Can I please ask you, going forward, we're going to have 12 weeks of this, can you focus on the actual contingencies and not on trying to thwart Brexit and trying to thwart what the people of Wales voted for?
Well, as I've said, Llywydd, I don't believe for a moment that the actions of this Welsh Government have been about thwarting the referendum. It has all been about how we leave the European Union and the way in which we leave the European Union, the conditions under which we leave the European Union. We may have different views around the chamber as to the best way in which Brexit can be made to happen, but that's what we've been talking about all the time. Now, there are many people who, as the realities of that will mean, dawn upon them, come to see the sense of what this government said to people in Wales in the run-up to the referendum, that Wales's future was best secured through continued membership of the European Union. And if it proves impossible for the House of Commons to agree on an orderly way in which Brexit can happen, I do not see how it is in any way not a democratic course of action to go back to the people of the United Kingdom and to get their view on how that might best be resolved.